trust me on this one. I worked here in San Francisco for more than 10 years, organizing in Bayview Hunters Point, and I know firsthand that individual personal power does not change systems, and it does not change dynamics. The kind of power that I think we need to continue to build is the kind of power that allows us to make decisions over our own lives. It's the kind of power that allows us to shape culture, to shape norms. What's good, what's bad? What's right, what's wrong? What's helpful, what's not helpful? People who have power shape those narratives, and we adopt them. We perpetuate them. We carry them like banners and flags. Case in point, when we talk about whether or not Black Lives Matter, that is a narrative that is designed to interrupt a particular kind of power. The power that some people have had to shape perceptions about who Black people are and are not. If Black people inherently are criminal, are violent, don't take personal responsibility, are lazy, are more prone to fighting with one another than we are thinking about the longer picture, somebody is shaping that narrative. And when we adopt those narratives, then we help perpetuate, right, systems of inequity. When we adopt those narratives, it shapes policy and how we make it. So therefore, we can have initiatives that aren't changing people's economic reality, that aren't changing the way that resources are distributed, but we can have initiatives that just focus on personal power, as if that in and of itself is enough to surmount systemic barriers that most of us have no individual power over. So when we think about what is power, it is about being able to shape your own circumstances. It's about being able to shape the narrative of who we are as a nation, as communities, as neighborhoods, as people. And quite frankly, power is also about the ability to determine what is the agenda. Power, essentially, is about the ability to make decisions and to have other people take up those decisions as their own. And that happens either through force or it happens through our own agreement. Yeah? In that way, then, power is the ability to determine our own circumstances. And who builds power is people. Now you've heard, some of you I know who are organizers in this room have heard, okay, so they, whoever the ubiquitous they is, they have money. We have people. And that's true, it's relatively simplified. But let's be clear that organized people can and do every day overcome organized money. And in the best forms of collaboration, organized people and organized money come together to change our conditions and our circumstances. To build power, we have to build a movement. We have to build a movement across organizations, across silos, across issues, across neighborhoods and geographies. We have to build the kind of movement that can work together, that can dream together, and more importantly, the kind of movement that can be effective together. Building that kind of movement is not a simple task. And many of us who are here in this room, and I recognize a lot of your faces, have been doing this work for a very long time. You've seen it all, am I right? You've seen it all. You're like, there's nothing under the sun that I haven't seen. And he was like, yes, honey, yes. But I want to offer that I think we can build movements differently, and I think there's an imperative to do that, particularly in a moment when a more powerful movement than ours has taken power in this country. The reason I say that individual power is not transformative in any kind of way is because I look at what's happening today in the White House, in Congress, in our state houses, in our local governments, and I'm very clear that a movement outside of our own has been building and gaining momentum for the last 40 years. This administration should not be a surprise to anyone. It didn't come out of nowhere. It didn't come because people didn't vote for Bernie or vote for Hillary. It's actually bigger than that. This movement has been building for a long time, and they've had their eye on power, which is how you now have a deathly agenda that controls the Oval Office, Congress, 2/3 of state legislatures, soon to be the Supreme Court. That right there is power. And so in this context, how do we not feel hopeless about our prospects of building power? But even more importantly, I think there's a big question around what do we do to overcome some of the barriers that stand in the way of building the kind of power we need to be able, first, to survive, and second, to transform. I have a personal commitment that I say to myself every single day. I say I am a commitment to building a vibrant and safe Black freedom movement across difference for the sake of our collective transformation. It's what I orient everything around. And this piece around building movement across difference is the challenge that I think we face today. You see, some of the differences that we point out amongst each other feel really big, but in the context of where politics are at in this country, they actually are pretty small. In that context of thinking that our differences are bigger than they may be, we can overstate or sometimes understate what's necessary for generations after us to even exist.